Hello, everyone. This is Professor J.D. McLean, or just J.D. McLean. It's my pleasure to be here with you today, giving you the introduction into a new approach to learning Security Plus, as well as for career progression. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I consider myself, and most folks around say the same thing, that I'm a very disciplined individual that has displayed at very great length emotional intelligence, as well as I've been able to have a growth mindset to help in various capacities. I've helped at one of our local technical colleges. I've served on the advisory board for over the last 12 years, where we look at everything from cloud to software development, as well as any type of technologies that's going to improve the curriculum, as well as bridge the gap between industry and education. So what we do is I use my expertise to align strategic strategies overall to build that industry knowledge, and not just from the educational perspective, but have over 20 years of experience as well in the technology sector, where I've done everything from change and implement new data centers. I've implemented and changed the telephony environment at organizations and modernized it. I've also been in a very envious position to start up a cybersecurity program, build that up, and put the infrastructure in place so that it goes beyond defense in depth. And we'll get into a lot of that uh, around this course. And what I would do is, as I indicated, I'll have a unique approach to cybersecurity. First of all, one of the things my students often ask is, how can I get into cybersecurity? And I tell them to first sit down and to evaluate yourself. And what that requires is discipline. Anything you do in life, it requires quite a bit of discipline. If it's within your career, if it's outside of your career, or any component of life. So this video will be pretty brief. And what I would do is we'll go into Security Plus. The Security Plus is a foundational certification. You could go to the CompTIA.org website and get all the information needed on your CompTIA Security Plus. My approach to Security Plus is going to be slightly different than what a lot of individuals teach. We'll go through, yes, all of the core material. We'll talk about how do you get the Security Plus, but most of my examples are going to be around healthcare, one of the industries that requires a lot of expertise around ensuring that you put governance in place, ensuring that you put the right controls in place. And I'll even give some tips on as we go through the course on some of the technologies. I won't get specific. I won't get specific into the organizations or organizations I work at, but we will have a lot of my students as well as some of my employees and others on the call. My approach will be to give you guys or you all an overview of the technology, what's required to pass the Security Plus exam, and then we'll move on to career tips. Uh, all of my free material will be more than enough for you to go through and pass the Security Plus. And It will also give you a foundation to get into the security field, as well as to begin to look at other certifications. Some of the things discussed here on the website is your how CompTIA opened the doors to cybersecurity for many. So now what I'll do is I'll jump over and we'll look at domain one, and we'll go through all 5 domains within this course. My approach will be to first of all go through the domain at a high level, look at the focus of that domain. So, for example, domain one focuses on your general security concepts. That domain covers 12% of the Security Plus exam. It focuses on the core security principles, controls, as well as frameworks. From a healthcare perspective, some of the critical areas are protecting your PHI, ensuring patient safety, and uh, this was created on May 3rd, 2025. So I'm not sure which date it is out there in YouTube land or on my homepage, but I look forward to you interacting with me. And after we finish each concept, each domain, I'll give you an opportunity to let me know what you would really like to see differently, or what you would like to see to enhance your learning. And what I will make sure that I do is we'll also have some live streaming events to where we go through each domain. I do have paid content, but before I get into that, I want to make sure that I give everyone free content that you could use to pass your Security Plus, that you could use to gain a job within the cybersecurity field or within technology, and you could use to network. I want you to use my platform as an opportunity to network as well. So one of the first things that we need to understand is once we look at what are the general security concepts, we need a solid understanding of the foundational security principles, which includes the CIE Triad, which includes triple A as well as zero trust. And we'll go through what all those means. And we'll look at healthcare relevancies. For example, your electronic health records and medical records must be secured, and confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We'll get into those once I get to the slide presentation for you. The overall goal when we look at the general security concepts is to ensure that patient data and compliance are met. As I said, we'll get into CIE Triad, and I'm a firm believer in reinforcement. So you're going to see everything twice, and we'll go through some practice questions. We'll go through some test tips. We'll go through some career advice. But starting out, as you heard, I did let you know that the CIE Triad is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So what do those mean? In the sense of from a health perspective, when you hear confidentiality, think of how you are protecting the data that you have, personal health information within your electronic health records. Integrity, ensure accuracy. So we'll get into digital signatures, and we'll look at how those digital signatures, hashing, and the technology help you to protect the integrity You know that that data is coming from a certain place, and we'll it's early in the course, but as we advance throughout, we'll show you how hashing puts a fingerprint on that data, so you would know exactly that that data has not been altered. Then availability. I like to tell my classes that availability is self-explanatory. If something is available, you're able to get to it. So you ensure the data has access. For example, you build redundant servers for patient portals, you build redundancy within your environment, you make sure that you build that redundancy so that if one actual piece of equipment goes down, you have a backup piece of equipment with that same information. So that's at a very, very low level of understanding or trying to help you to understand availability. Just availability is to ensure you have access. Then we have the AAA framework, which are authentication, which verifies the identity. For example, within healthcare industry or environments, and even outside of the healthcare, but individuals use multi-factor authentication. I'm sure as you've gone to your bank account, your email account, as you log in, you get a text message that goes to your cell phone, or you get some type of authentication method to verify that you are who you are as a second piece of identification. So we'll get into identity access management, how you create username and passwords, but the authentication piece is where you verify that identity. Authorization, you're defining the permissions. For example, we have RBAC for nurses access, so role-based access control, and we'll get more into detail on that as well. Then you have accounting. Whenever you see accounting, think of tracking actions, and the way you typically track is through having logs. So have a log of your PHI, personal health information, as well as access for Health Information Portability and Act, or HIPAA, which is one of the regulatory uh, bodies, so that once you have data within the healthcare, you have to ensure that that data has regulatory accountabilities for individuals. Then we will also get into zero trust and non-repudiation. When you think of zero trust, think of nothing is trusted. It has to be verified continuously. For example, authentication of infusion pumps within the healthcare industry or dental equipment, if it's a dental office. Non-repudiation proves actions. So those are digital signatures for, in this case, healthcare for prescriptions. But non-repudiation, you ensure that it is what the data is what it says it is, and you can validate through non-repudiation, which goes hand in hand with integrity. You heard me mention defense in depth earlier. When you think of defense in depth, think of the scenario of when they had castles. The castle had multiple layers of defense. It had a moat around it. It had where you put the drawbridge to let people in. It had bodyguards around outside of the moat, had bodyguards inside of the moat. And then even once you entered into the castle, it had additional protection. all the way up to the king or queen. So defense in depth, same scenario to where you'll have firewalls. We'll talk about firewalls more as we progress throughout the course. We have training. We have different layers. We have like routers, switches, body security guards. You have fences, gates. We'll get into all of the different aspects of physical as well as administrative and other types of controls that are put in place to build out a defense in depth strategy. And then when we think of cloud technology, I'm sure everyone on this video has heard of cloud. Most of the Gmails and Yahoo or any type of web-based email is a type of cloud service. Organizations have moved to cloud to where when you think of cloud, you have an infrastructure, an IT infrastructure. Traditionally, let's go back many years, all of that was internal to an organization. For example, you had an email server, you had servers that connect to that email server, you have switches within your environment that actually, as we get into understanding the technical environment, we'll talk about the OSI model and the different layers and what each of the layers do. You have routers, you have firewalls, just multiple pieces within your environment. So cloud, what it did is it took all of that equipment and put it within, instead of on premise, meaning all of the equipment is on your somewhere on your in your environment, it's within a cloud data center. For example, you have AWS, Azure, as well as you have Google as three of the bigger cloud organizations. And shared responsibility is the duties that each you and the cloud providers have. And we'll get more into detail with that as we progress throughout the course. Then we have security control types, functional, such as preventative, that stop incidents, detective, to identify incidents, and corrective, which restores systems. So I use, for example, preventative, as I mentioned earlier, multi-factor authentication. So even if someone gains access to your account, but they don't have your cell phone, or they don't have a key fob, or they don't have that additional factor of authentication, they still will not be able to gain access to your environment. If they're a high level hacker, maybe, but for the sake of this course, when you have multi-factor authentication, that will is a preventative measure for you and your organization to prevent access to critical data. Detective, I put SIEM, and we'll get into this later. Uh, we'll also look at corrective, where you have to restore systems. And we did mention earlier about having storage, having additional pieces of equipment, etc., so that you can actually restore your systems. Then we have your security control types. For example, deterrent, compensating, and directive. When you hear deterrent, that discourages attacks. For example, the big one here is warning banners on portals. So if someone has a guest network within their hospital or dental office or clinic, that guest network, when individuals log in, it would display, it should display a warning that you have entered into companies or hospital ABC's network. Do not perform any illegal activities. You list out whatever you want the parties to see and to warn them not to do anything that would jeopardize the data of that organization. Compensating alternative protections, for example, to segment legacy MRI machines away from other information, other data, other machines. We'll get into VLAN and segmentation as well throughout this course. And directive to guide behavior. For example, HIPAA training policies is a directive. Then, as I mentioned earlier, when I was talking through defense in depth, you have physical, technical, and administrative controls and control types. Physical could be a biometric lock on a server room, so you can't get in without an iris scan or a thumb or fingerprint. Technical, use technology. You've heard me mention firewall quite a few times. Firewall looks at the incoming as well as could be outgoing traffic. It puts rules. Think of a traffic cop that prevent people from crashing into each other. Think of any type of rules that prevent actions from happening that would be detrimental. So firewalls, we'll get into more details as well as we navigate throughout this course. And administrative, those are your policies. So we use risk assessments for telemedicine, for example. You have policies around it. Organizations have acceptable use policies, meaning you need to understand what you can and what you can't do with the equipment that you have. So there's many other type of controls. We'll get into, well, administrative controls. We'll get into those as we go throughout the course. Then we have a security framework. When we talk about security, you need governing bodies to actually help guide you through all of the governance and all of the needs that an organization has. We're going to stick with the healthcare organization types. So we have the NIST CSF that focuses on to identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. So that's going through the data, ensuring that, first of all, you identify potential risk, you build in protections, you have mechanism to detect when things are happening. You have the proactive ability to respond to those threats, and you have redundancy built in and methods to recover as you have the process. And we'll get into all of this throughout the course around why you have change management as well as ticketing systems and different areas of your organization that helps it to secure your environment. We'll get into the international standards as well, which is 27001, focusing around additional standards. And we have best practices around the CIS controls as well. Some of the healthcare regulatory bodies or regulations, we have the big one in healthcare is the HIPAA. HIPAA is crucial. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act is a federal law that was enacted in 1996 And the overall focus of that is to protect the privacy and security of an individual's health information. Then we have high tech, which is another very critical aspect of your organization when you have uh, patient information. High tech is more of an upgrade and adds additional protections. What it does is, first of all, it stands for your Health Information Technology for Economics and Clinical Health Act. And this came along in 2009, part of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Then we have another very important act is your GDPR, and that GDPR uh, is indicated here, the EU data. So your General Data Protection Regulation is a European Union law that sets guidelines on how organizations can collect, use, and protect personal data of individuals within the EU. So why talk about the EU? Because if they're patients within the hospitals and they're EU citizens, you would still be accountable for the General Data Protection Regulations. So something that you need to understand. And I'll give a refresher on different regulations that are outside of healthcare. We'll go through some of those when we quiz as well, because I do want to make sure that I have a high percentage of individuals who go through my course that pass the Security Plus and other exams as we put those out as well, and help also your organization understand some of the technologies that are required to build that robust infrastructure that mitigates against many of the risks that are out there, especially targeting the health organizations, healthcare, dental offices, as well as any type of organization. Some additional basic security techniques. We have risk management assessments. We have access control. We'll get into the definition of your role-based access controls, your DAX and MAX. We'll get into those definitions as we navigate throughout the course. Also, basic security technique, we need to understand different type of encryptions. We'll get into that where we talk about your two type of, well, you have symmetric and asymmetric. We'll discuss how symmetric versus symmetric best use cases for each. Uh, Thing to remember from a technical perspective is when you're building out encryption, you have transport layer sockets, and anything below 1.2 is unacceptable. And we'll tell you why as we go throughout the course. As we put here, 1.3 for telemedicine is important because it's going to encrypt the data, meaning disguise it so people can't understand uh what it says. Security and awareness. Security awareness and physical security are crucial as well in this section, to where you have security awareness, where you educate your staff, you educate individuals. You could have phishing training for your nurses. You can have phishing training for your staff. You can send out alerts, social media campaigns or phishing campaigns that attempts to trick your organization employees like a hacker would. So security awareness training is crucial. And then physical security is to protect your assets, badge readers for pharmacy, and just in general, you want to make sure that you have a solid understanding. Some of the exam tips and sample questions could be, first of all, what is CIA? understand confidentiality, integrity, and availability. What is the AAA or AAA? What are some of the control types? We're prioritizing healthcare scenarios, but like I said, I'll also give overall scenarios as we go through. We'll have some free material. I'll add that, but those who want to enhance their careers or those who want to move forward and get even higher level certificates, who wants consulting work, all of those folks, I'll have some paid material, so you'll get that extra edge. One of the question type is looking at encrypting PHI, which principle? And answer is kind of tricky because that could technically be integrity, but because we're looking at the healthcare, it's going to be confidentiality. And I'll make sure that future questions are very crystal clear, and we'll have like explanations to each of those questions as well. But you want to ensure that when it says encrypt PHI, so it's basically protecting the availability of your personal health information. So in conclusion, we did a brief overview of Domain 1 Foundation of Security Plus, which encompasses 12% of your overall exam. Some of the key areas to remember within this domain, those are CIA, AAA, Zero Trust, HIPAA, GDPR as well. So prepare, memorize how to apply to different scenarios, as well as we'll have questions. So I'm going to end this particular video, and my next one will be domain one of the next chapter, meaning we'll go through at least 50 slides on domain one, between slides and questions. So I hope this has been helpful. I really am proud and happy to have you as part of my journey to educate, to equip, and to enhance the cybersecurity posture of organizations by having a solid group of individuals who can step into roles and help provide organizations with a more robust and secure environment. So thank you. I really appreciate those of you who are watching this on YouTube. Don't hesitate to click the like button. Don't hesitate to sign up, because I'll put shorts and additional information out there. I'll try to feed additional information daily, and then we'll have all of the domains covered for you, as well as other questions. And the live stream sessions are going to be just awesome. So thank you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.